Unit 3, Rigid Motions, question number 4. So question number 4, we're going to start with the homework support. So we're trying to do transformational rules, okay? So it says the figure below is rotated 180 degree counterclockwise, then translated up 3 units. What is the coordinate of the image of point X after these transformations? So the coordinate of point X is -8 for the X and -7 for the Y, okay? So that's what I'm starting with, alright? So I need first to do a 180 degree counterclockwise. Okay, so 180 degree counterclockwise. Okay, so clockwise goes from the right going around, counterclockwise goes the opposite direction. But regardless, 180 degrees means that you're flipping it into the opposite quadrant. Okay, so if I went from here and I'm going to 180 degree counterclockwise, I'll be going this way and I'll end up here because this will be 90, 180, 270, 360. So if you look, whenever it's where it's at right now, it's when the X is negative, when the Y is negative. If it goes 90 then 180, the X is positive and the Y is positive. So essentially both the X and the Y signs will change, okay? So this will now be 8 and +7. Now I need to go up 3 units, okay? So up and down changes the Y value because again the Y is up or down, okay? So I just add 3 to my Y value, so it'll be 8, 10. Okay, so again just like that, that would be the answer. So the next one, it says we're reflecting over the Y axis, then rotated 180 degrees clockwise. What are the coordinates of the image on point X after the transformation? So point X has a coordinate of 7 for the X, 5 for the Y. So if I have 7, 5, I'm going to first do a reflect over the over the y-axis. So if I reflect over the y-axis, this is the y-axis. If I reflect over it, I'm using it as a mirror to reflect in this way. So that means it keeps the same y value but a different x value. So that means the x value, we will go ahead and change the sign. So it will be -7x and then 5, because if I'm flipping over here the x's are positive, over here the x's are negative, okay? So the first one was reflect over y, okay? Now we need to do a 180 degree clockwise rotation. Alright, so that 180 degree clockwise will mean that it's going to go from this quadrant, because we reflected here, so now it's going to go from this quadrant. Clockwise will mean that it's going this way, so this will be 90, 180, so it's in the opposite quadrant where the numbers are positive then negative for the y. So this would be a +7 and then a -5. Okay, so again just like that. So let's try the next one. So the next one, it says the figure below is reflected over the x-axis, then dilated with a center of dilation at the origin of a scalar factor of 1/3. What is the coordinate of the image of point X after these transformations? Okay, so point X has a coordinate of -9, -9. Okay, so I first need to do a reflect over the x-axis. So the x-axis will mean that the x value stays the same, but the y value will change because I'm reflecting it up here to the top. So the x value stays the same, the y value will change signs. Okay, so again that's reflect over x. So then now I need to go ahead and try to evaluate what's the dilation of 1/3. Dilation of 1/3 means that you're multiplying by a factor of 1/3. Okay, so dilation, alright, of 1/3 means that you're multiplying by 1/3 or dividing it by 3. So -9 times 1/3 and then 9 times 1/3. You can cross simplify, and then you would get -3 and then +3. Okay, so again just like that. So then the next one says figure is rotated 180 degrees, then dilated with a center dilation of the origin on a scalar factor of 1/2. What is the coordinate of the image of point E? So point E is -6 and 2. Okay, so 180 degree clockwise means that it's going over here where the x is positive, y is negative. Okay, so again that's 180. Clockwise or counterclockwise, they do the same thing. Okay, So then now I'm doing dilation of 1/2. Okay, so in this case it's same as multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So again, the same as multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So this would be 3 and -1. Okay, so let's do the next slide. So the next slide says that we're trying to graph image after the transformation. So it says answer the questions below on the image that we see below. So it says we have this triangle right here. Okay, if triangle DEF is reflected across the y equal x and then translated 2 units left and 3 units down, make a graph which represents D complement, E complement, and F complement. So in this case, guys, it's going to be easier for us to, instead of making a graph, we're just going to identify the points for the new graph. Okay, so if I want to graph the new graph, I need to first know the original points. So the original points for D was -2, 1. E was 0, 4, and F was 3, -1. So those are the coordinates. Okay, so D, E, F, okay, was -2, 1, 0, 4, and 3, -1. Okay, so firstly I'm going to do the reflect when reflected when y is equal to x. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, y equal x. Okay, so when I reflect when y equal x, I'm essentially using x as a reflection arrow. So y equal x means that we're doing a diagonal line where for every positive x value there's a positive y, every negative x there's a negative y. So essentially it would be a diagonal line cutting it in the middle. Okay, whenever you reflect when y is equal to x, you just swap the x and the y. Okay, so essentially this would now be 1, -2, this would be 4, 0, and this would be 3, -1, 3. Okay, so now we're gonna do the translate 2 units left and 3 units down. Okay, so 2 left, 3 down. Okay, so if I'm doing 2 left, that means the x value is changing, and if I'm doing 3 down, the y value is changing. Left means I'm getting more negative, so this would be 2 left would be -1, because it go to from 1 to 0, 0 to -1, and then 3 down means I'm subtracting 3, so this would be -5. 2 left would be subtracting 2, so that would be 2, and then 3 down means that you subtract 3, so I'll be at -3. And then finally 2 left will be -1, -3, so you're subtracting 2, and then 3 down from 3 will be 0. Okay, so the coordinate for this will be -1, -5, 2, -3, and then -3, 0, and you just graph that on your graph. Okay, so let's try to do the next one, guys. Let's try to do the next one. So it says we're still doing DEF, so all these include DEF. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label each of these DEF, so it makes it a little bit easier for when I try to solve them. This is -2, 1, 0, 4, 3, -1. Okay, so -2, 1, 0, 4, 3, -1. -2, 1, 0, 4, 3, -1. -2, 1, 0, 4, 3, -1. Okay, so for this one, so for the first one, I'm doing a 180-degree rotation. Okay, so 180-degree rotation. So that means that you're going to change the sign for the x and the y. So this would be 2, -1. This would be 0, -4. This would be -3, 1. So then after that, we're gonna do 3 right and then 2 down. Okay, so the new coordinate, so 3 right means that you're adding 3s to the x value, so that'll be 5. 3 right adding 3, so that'll be 3. 3 right adding 3, so that'll be 0. And then 2 down means you're subtracting 2, so that'll be -3. Subtracting 2, that's -6. Subtracting 2, that's -1. And that would be my results. Okay, so let's try the next one. So the next one, alrighty, so when I look at those points that are changing, so for this one we're reflecting over the y-axis, then translate 4 units right. Okay, so reflect over y. So when you reflect over y, that means that you're switching where, so you're reflecting over the y-axis, this axis, we're switching to the other side of the x. Okay, so that means the x value changed, the y value stays the same. So the x value changed to a 2, it stays at a 0, change to a -3, the y value stays the same. Okay, oh, -1. Alright, and then we're gonna now go right 4 units. Okay, so right 4, so that means the x value is changing by adding 4. So this would be 6 1, this would be 4 4, this would be 1 -1. Okay, so the next one wants us to do 270 degree counterclockwise about the origin, then translate 2 units right and 4 units up. So 270 degree counterclockwise. Alright, so when I do that one, guys, so 270 degree counterclockwise is the same as 90 degree clockwise. Okay, so if we think about a graph, guys, so say we have a graph right here. We have a graph right here. 90 degree counterclockwise, the clock goes this way, it will be going here. 270 degree counterclockwise, so the counter will be going the other direction. So this would be 90, 180, 270. So 270 counterclockwise is the same as 90 clockwise. Alright, so in this case, we'll do the same thing as 90 clockwise, and 90 clockwise means that you swap them and change, I believe, the x. So again, 90 clockwise means you swap them and change the sign of the x. So the x will change to a 2, and then we swap. So that'll be 1 2. 0, you can't change the sign of a 0, so that says a 0, and you swap 4 0. And then the 3, change the sign and become a -3, and then you swap -1 -3. Okay, so now we're gonna do the translation. So 2 right and then 4 up. So the right means you're adding 2 and you're adding it to the x value, so that would be 3, this would be 6, this would be 1. And then up 4 means you're changing the y value, so that would be 6, 4, and 1. Okay, so again, guys, just like that. So let's try the next one. So for this one, we're doing when y is equal to -x. So we're doing when y equal -x. Okay, so that means that for every y value, you have the -x value. So that's actually going to be a line going diagonally but going downwards, okay, through the origin. Alright, so essentially when you're doing y equal -x, you're going to swap them and change the signs. Okay, so you're going to swap both of them, change the signs. So this would be -1 2, this would be swapped, and then change both signs, and -4 0 stays the same because it's 0, and then you swap, that would be 1 -3. Okay, so then next, alright, next would be right 5 units only. So this one is just right 5. Okay, so right 5 means you're changing the x value by adding 5. So this would be 4 2, this would be 1 0, and this would be 6 -3. Okay, so again, guys, just like that. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video for you guys to try the ones on the right side. So again, I'll pause the video for you to try the ones on the right. Alrighty guys, so here are the results. Okay, so again this was 180, and then I did the left 2. So left 2 means that I would subtract 2, so this is a negative 1. Alright, and then 3 down would be positive 2. Okay, so these are all the answers. Okay, so again these are all the answers. Pause it so that you can see all the answers. So again guys, just like that.